Do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a proven roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. We walk you through the exact same process that we use to run franchise marketing campaigns for our clients at scale that has resulted in triple-digit growth. This blueprint isn't for anyone. It's not for people just starting a franchise. It's not for franchises without long-term goals. This is for franchises that want to scale up their marketing in a predictable and profitable way using a proven roadmap. If you want to sell more franchises, keep your current franchisees happy, and learn from people who have already done it, go to franchisegrowthblueprint.com and sign up today. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. This week, I'm very excited. We have Heidi Morrissey, who is the president of Kitchen Tune-Up. Heidi, welcome.
Thank you, Jordan. I love being here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So for our listeners who don't know about you and your franchise, could you tell them a bit about yourself?
You bet. Our franchise is 32 years old. My dad founded it in 1988. We are a kitchen remodeling company that does 1 to 5 day kitchen updates or remodels. We have 5 different services we can do really quickly. Right now, we have about 212 locations around the US, and we have been growing really fast over the last couple of years as we have been implementing more technology to help our owners, have more of their life back. And so I'm always about the easy button and trying to find the easy button for every area of our business. And I've been president now since 2017. I came to work with my dad in 2003. Actually, as a family business, I really never thought I would work with a family business. I kind of had my own thing going, and my dad recruited me back so that he would be able to take more time off. So for about the first, 14 years or so, I was vice president of marketing and sales. And then it was just kind of a gradual transition, but it just kind of made sense when I took over completely in 2017.
Very cool. So it sounds like you have a boatload of information, growing for the past, 17 years that you've been on board. So tell me, what has been some of the biggest learnings that you've had since?
In just marketing in general or franchising in general?
Anything and everything. You choose.
I think that's a lot of learnings to go through over the 17 and a half years. I mean, the thing about this is a people business. And, as you are working with people, I find that the best franchise relationships are collaborative. And so we work a lot with our owners, our advisory council, and even when we went through our rebranding in 2005, which is a really big deal, because you think about a rebranding and everyone has to change their vehicles, everything that they have in literature. It was really big. And we did it collaboratively. And we actually even voted on what to do. And we got a 98% vote to go forward with even though it was going to cause everybody a little bit of grief, they all wanted to get that rebranding. And so if you work with people in a collaborative way, and of course, if our end goals are all very much aligned, I think you can pretty much accomplish anything, right?
I love it. And you know what? Collaboration has been such a huge point in previous episodes. So I'm so happy you brought this up. And we actually haven't talked about like collaborative marketing, collaborative rebranding. So I'm curious, how did you go through it? How did you start off doing this huge rebrand with, how many stakeholders?
Yeah. I think the first thing is, making a determination that it's needed, right? Why is it needed? You don't do something just to have something to do. There has to be a reason behind it. And for us, it was really that the brand, as it was created in 1988, that was a brand that was for one service, and it was very masculine in this essence. Just the look and feel of it was very masculine. And our end client is female, and so when we started looking at it, we realized that the appeal to our end client probably wasn't as great as it could be. So you get that first, and then you start to talk with a team of influential franchise owners. So you bring them in and say, would you like to be a part of a marketing rebranding, council or task force or however you want to word it. And once you get those people on board, you start talking about the things that they've heard or seen, and then we hire a company that helps to facilitate it, right? That's important, I think. I think you need that third party when you do something like this so that you can keep the trust going between the franchisors and the franchisees as partners. And then you
Mhm.
bring in that third party that has another view of things. And, you go through the whole process and you keep everyone informed. There is not like this secret meeting and then you tell everybody as a surprise party. You want to constantly be transparent when you're making changes. And I think that that's probably some advice that I kind of pulled through was, you try to do some things, and especially in an office setting where you're the corporate office or the home office, sometimes you can have some ideas and they sound amazing, but until you talk to your field, what's the franchise partner's feelings about this, you really don't know how it will be received. And so always having either a group of them that you can connect with pretty regularly. We had like about 150 or 60 owners at the time that we did our rebranding. So it was a lot of people. You couldn't get them all on a phone call together. There was no Zoom. you know, there wasn't. And so we really had to work with like 10 people in different regions of the country that could represent everyone, and then I'm pretty sure we did emails. It was about 2006. So I'm sure we did, collaborative emails just to keep people informed with what was happening, on a regular
Cool.
basis. Yeah.
Cool. So what was your process for identifying these influencers
Mm.
that you would want on this kind of marketing task force?
Yeah. Well, some of it's looking at backgrounds, right? So your franchise owners come from every background in the world. I mean, we have people from communications and IT. We have people that came from marketing and sales backgrounds. And so the first thing was to look at the people that were somewhat ahead of the pack when it came to, okay, we got a new lead generator. I'm going to be one of the first adopters. So those people that were always trying out the different types of services that we'd bring in, those were really some of the top people. And then, of course, you had to look at some of your top performers because they already have influence. If you're a top performer, your name's on the list, you're getting awards, that makes you an influencer in the business already. So then we found those people. And we also still had an advisory council at the same time, and we did not cross over the people. We kept the advisory council as a part of it, and then we started a different ad group that met as a task force.
Interesting. So why did you keep them separate? What was that thought process?
So that we would have more people to collaborate with, because if we would have crossed over, we would have lessened the pool by bringing in like 10 new people, and plus having your 7 council members, that gave us 17 people out of the 155 or whatever it was at the time. And that allowed us to have a broader range of opinions.
Very cool. Very cool. So um I'd love to learn a bit more about like what was the biggest hurdle
Mm.
for facilitating that collaboration and getting these 17 people to actually agree on something?
It was probably trying to get everybody's schedule to sync up, to try to find a time when we could talk. So we did a couple of in-person meetings, of course. They kind of naturally flowed with our reunions that we have, or our summer meetings. So that was easy enough. But at the time, it wasn't as easy to collaborate with a whole bunch of people online. So you literally had like group emails. And then you would have to do, I'm sure we had a conference line that we could use and talk to people. But when you've got people out there running their business, it's not easy to grab them out of their business for an hour call, and everybody in different time zones to do that. So that was probably the most challenging. I think today it would be a little easier with all the tools and stuff that we have available to us, but because we do a lot of collaboration now with our owners, but it's much easier than it was back then.
Interesting. So tell me more about the collaboration that you're doing nowadays.
So we are talking with owners, like if they come in and maybe we're going through the training program and they're talking about their background or what they'd like to try out. We're like right now we're doing a test with a franchise in the Philly market on some service and maintenance agreements. And it's something we've been talking about kind of high level. And I've mentioned it a few times, like on conference calls or on our Zoom meetings that we do to the whole system. And he called the other day and he said that he was ready to, he wanted to do that. He said, has anyone done it? And I said, no, I'm waiting for my first adopter. And he said, let me be the first adopter. So we started working on it, and we rolled it out within just a couple of days because we had a lot of it already put together. And so then he gave us feedback on what he wanted added to the program. And then he'll go ahead and roll it out. In about a month, we'll probably roll it to the whole system with he along the ride, to be able to tell everyone what his experience was.
Very cool. So you bring up something really great that I kind of like to call the test and learn
Yeah.
experiments, where you test it on a single franchise, you
Yep.
then roll it out. So
Yeah.
what do you have, like a formula or like a framework you follow for building these test and learn experiments?
I think they have to be put together depending on the project, right? For this one, we're going to do some A/B pricing testing to make sure in the market, we want to see what the market can bear for the pricing of a maintenance program annually. And so we've got some A/B, and he's gonna split his leads up into those categories to see what price point is the most agreeable. So sometimes with that particular one, he's just doing it by himself, and he's going to take it out because it was kind of a lot of prep work, as far as how to get the salespeople to understand how to pitch it and stuff. If it was something a little more basic, let's say we're going to do some new Facebook marketing, then we can do the A/B testing, but we might do it with 12 different people or 15 different people. And then within about a week or two, you already have your results and you can take them out quickly. So some are like 30 days, some could be 45, and some might be a week or two. It just depends on how quickly you can get your results back.
Totally. And I'm curious, how do you make sure you're not um, over optimizing for, say, a specific city? So, for example,
Mm,
this may work really well in Philly,
sure.
but it won't work well in, say,
Fits.
Buffalo.
We'll get right back to the show, but do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. To find out more, visit franchisegrowthblueprint.com. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Now back to today's episode.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that, it's going to depend on your salesmanship on this particular platform, right? Because this is more about sales than even marketing, has a marketing component to it. But so some of it's going to depend on the people, and some of it will depend on, the owner's willingness or wantingness to maybe get this done so that they can help their team get excited about it. So yeah, the market, can definitely bear different price points. We don't really set pricing for our franchises. So he's doing the pricing so that he can say that I tried this one, and in my market, this was the price. You might go out to South Dakota, North Dakota, you might go to a different state completely, and they may have to take it down $5 a month or something very different in order for them to find that same price point. But the program itself could stay, and the marketing pieces around it could stay. It's just that price point might need to change. But yeah, that's something that people will go out and they'll probably test their own pricing, and kind of based on their sales ability. So, again, if they've got great salespeople, they might be able to take that price up even more than somebody in the same market would be able to.
Very cool. So it's been, I think you said 3.5 years now that you're in the president
Yeah.
position. What have been your biggest learnings in this role?
Yeah, this has been, it's an interesting seat to go in. I found the most interesting thing was, although I don't believe that I made big changes in just how I am, the people look at your title a little differently. And so people used to call all the time and reach out, because I was also doing a lot of coaching and talking with them. And all of a sudden I felt like I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, we haven't talked for a while. And they said, well, you're just so busy now as, president. And I said, we've talked about like everything all the time. It's like, you can still reach out. So I think I remember my dad saying that sometimes what was hard was he really likes people and likes coaching people, but because of his title, he kind of there was a separation that was formed without him, but just with the title. So that was kind of interesting. So I have to really work hard at being very open and transparent and showing people my availability so that I can still stay connected with what's happening. So that was one big learning. Another one is that, as you're bringing in a lot of new stuff, especially technology, you have to really watch that you don't, overwhelm them, because they have their day job, they have their life, right? And even though the technology will eventually save them a lot of time, we, like with our operating system, we gave them 2.5 years to adopt it. I've seen some systems in the past where they would try to make them adopt it within like 6 months. And I really think you have to give people a little bit of time because they're going to have to work that into their schedule, the learnings. And of course, everyone being trained from that time 2.5 years ago, they were using it just as their normal system. So it normalized in the system a little more naturally than just to force it and to not have any new people really kind of coming in and showing what they're doing with it as a test. So I learned a lot about technology, and as excited as we all were and we talked about it, it's not as easy to roll it all out at once. You have to be conscious. And the other is suppliers. We've been really bringing in lots of different suppliers. And a couple of our owners this year put up the white flag and said, no more suppliers for a little bit. It's a lot to learn. And, we were trying to meet all of the different needs of everything that, they had in their business, from operations, call centers to, marketing, suppliers, everybody. And so we realized that they wanted to do a good job with all of them. So they were like, can we get those a little bit, slower, maybe one every 2 months or something instead of, we had 8, I think, in 7 months at one point this last year. I know it's a lot of stuff, but we didn't have a leasing company before. There were some things that we didn't have that, we felt like we needed.
Interesting. So I want to go back to
Sure.
that transparency
Mhm.
point, because I think that's a really important one that you brought up, especially as you're scaling up. So,
Mhm.
what are you doing to show franchisees that your schedule is open and
Mhm.
please book a time slot with me?
Yeah. Well, I have a calendar online. I use 10 to 8. I use a paid version of that so that I can have that link in every single email that I send out. And our owners are always welcome to book a time on my calendar at any time. But probably the biggest thing I did about a year ago, little over a year ago, I started an internal podcast. And so I do 2 different podcast channels for our owners only. One of them is called Stay Tuned, and it's basically me interviewing, suppliers or owners that might be doing something. It might even be just a call that I'm having with somebody, and I'll say, "Can I record this? And if there's something in here that could help others, can we share it?" And most people say, "No problem." The other one is called Tunify Your Day. And it's a less than 5-minute kind of motivational. And it's a way for me to kind of have a daily conversation right away in the morning, just to kind of get the thoughts out or what's happening kind of currently. And that has been really well received. And I think that for a lot of people, maybe part of the reason they don't feel the need to necessarily call is they say, "I hear you every day. It's like I talk to you every day. I just and so I think that was in order to scale my time. I think that was probably one of the most important things I did this year.
That's really interesting. So what made you decide to do those two internal podcasts? Like what was that light bulb moment for you?
Yeah. Well, we have always done a lot of webinars, and, we'd use like GoToMeeting or something, and we'd have these webinars. And also we'd send out this long newsletter monthly. And we sent out a Monday morning tune up, which is just a Monday email and I remember talking to our president of our council one time, and he's a very conscientious business person. And I was saying to him, well, that was like in that Wood review. He said, "Heidi, honestly, I sometimes don't get to read those until like I'm on a plane, and then I might read 6 months." And I said, "Really?" I said, "So you don't, I mean, because those things are kind of timely, right?" And I said, "Well, what do you think? What's the problem?" He goes, "To get in front of a computer and sit down and see everything is really hard." And I thought, okay, what's another option? And so it was that. And then I remember an owner telling me once that there was so much great information in our manuals, but sometimes he wished that we could read it to him so that he could have them in bite size. Those two ideas together, I was like, I wonder if we could do some like an internal podcast. And so it literally came together pretty quickly. Labor Day of 2019, I was in the office working over that 3-day weekend, and I figured out that you could do an internal, and we got everything set up. So when my staff came in, I said, "Hey guys, I started a podcast this weekend." And so I showed them what we were doing, and started interviewing people. And really, I really didn't know at the time if we would have a lot of adopters or how that would work. And I was shocked that we had 80% adoption within the first month.
Wow. That is really impressive. Holy
Yeah.
schmoly.
Yeah. And, I keep saying, when you guys get tired of hearing my voice, let me know. Maybe we can have someone else record it. But I do think that, for a lot of people, they're in the car, they're going, to go check on a job site or something, and it gives them an opportunity to stay connected, right? Stay tuned.
Totally. Totally. And again, it's so much more intimate
Yeah.
coming from you hearing your
Mhm.
voice rather than an email, which, it could be anyone who's
Sure.
writing it and just sending it on your behalf. So
Yeah.
I love that idea, Heidi. One question I always like to ask is, what advice would you give someone just starting out as a
Mm.
franchisor?
I give a lot of different pieces probably because it would depend on what part they were looking at. But I think I would start with knowing, who it is that who's your end user, as far as your consumer goes. And then who is the person that can best deliver an experience to that end user? Kind of come up with your, avatar, let's say, of both people. And I think, we know our customer, our demographic is females over 55. Who can we now find that could service females over 55 and then run an operation? So you're coming up with two different avatars. I always call it a client attraction plan. You want to find those people that you really really want to attract. What does it look like? How do they behave? What are some of the characteristics? Because once you get really clear about the people, the rest of the pieces will start to fall into play. And the other, if I was just starting out, I would say do as much as you can to be prepared to open your business, but leave a little room for collaboration. Because as much as we want to get everything completely perfect and put it out there and say, here is your box of, this is your business in a box, go. I think that without a little bit of collaboration, I know our company wouldn't have gone 32 years if, my dad wasn't listening to the owners early on. And that didn't just kind of stay our culture for years is like, let's collaborate. Let's talk about things. They have a lot to offer from their backgrounds as well as just being in the field. And you can't use every idea. You can't just change your whole model every couple months because somebody comes in, but you can certainly find little things that you could add to that will just make it even better. And the pride of the owners when they know that they have ownership in some pieces of that can just really propel the business forward.
Totally. And I think it creates a sticky model on the franchisee part. They do like own their own business, but then they have almost like a leadership role and kind of that self sense of responsibility of helping guide the franchise system in overall as well.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, the franchisor is a model for business for the franchisee. They're watching what you're doing and they're modeling a lot of it. I always say, as we've been scaling fast, I have also been helping. We have a mastermind of franchises that are very large and they want to almost double their business very quickly. And when we talk, it's like we are peers because I'm doing the same thing at a different level. They're doing it at their level, but what we have to get done, it's mostly mindset. It's mostly things that we have to, really wrap our head around that thought a little differently. And so we can collaborate together in that moment too.
I love it. I love it. So we've talked about the past, Heidi. Let's talk about
Yeah.
the future. What is keeping you up at night right now?
Not much. I usually sleep pretty well. um, you know, I'm excited. We're very excited about where we're going in the future. As we continue to bring in the new training, I've got 7 new employees in the last year and a half that I've brought into the home office because we've been growing really fast. And because our owners are also scaling just as fast now, they're just getting bigger faster. We have found that that's a really exciting challenge because we now this year have owners bigger than we've ever had in our history. So they've hit record numbers. Our corporation has hit record numbers this year. So, we're learning how to do this business a little differently. And so it's exciting to come in because what got you, here is not going to get you there. We know that. We study that model and we say, all right, what are some things that have to change? What are some things that we all have to do differently so that we do have the room to scale it up? So I'm not too nervous about a lot. I really feel like, we're in a very solid, marketplace as far as home improvement goes. As my dad said when he started the company, everyone has a kitchen. So if you can market and sell, we'll have a business. And so he always knew that since that was kind of the premise of when he started his first cabinet company before he franchised. But it was a simple, decision, I guess, to make. But I hear that from people a lot when they're looking at a business model. What can we do? And right now, people are cooking a lot in their homes, and so it's been a big benefit for us. But you know, I think that, there's really nothing I'm worried about right now. Honestly, it's all very exciting.
That's awesome. I love that because it sounds like there's been a lot of learnings and you've actually, taken it and embraced it, and as actually learned from it and are improving on it. I love that, because not everyone will be able to do that at scale successfully.
Right. I think, one of the things we tell our owners, if you're going to love being a business owner, you need to be a lifelong learner. Now, however you learn, it could be a podcast. Podcasts can help you scale and grow really fast because it can really expand your ideas really quickly. Whether it's reading books, going and reading articles. So we really challenge the owners to be lifelong learners. And as a home office team, we really work hard on that. We have lunch and learns right now, remote lunch and learns. Even though we're all working in our office for the most part, we have enough space between us to do that. We still, we don't get into big rooms together anymore. So we just do things, through Zoom and stuff. And I find that, for everyone that resists change, we all adapt quickly. I mean, that's just human nature. And so we might think that we don't want to change, but honestly, within a week or two, we've adapted. It's all good. If you remember that, then you'll know that there's never anything that you hit up a wall against that's really going to be final for you, right? It's just, you're just there. Now, how do we get over that wall and, not get too concerned about it?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a huge mindset thing.
It is.
So Heidi, we are coming near the end of the
Sure.
episode, and I like to end all of them with a lightning round.
All
So
right.
it's just a few fast-paced questions.
Yes,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So first question is, what is your favorite tool or app that you cannot live without?
Tool or app? Probably, oh, there's just so many. Right now, I'm going to say that, that's a tough one. Right now we're using our Box drive and it's on all my devices. So Box.
Awesome.
Yes.
Gotta have your documents everywhere.
Yes.
Cool. What is your favorite book?
Oh my goodness. That's a really tough one. And I could go back into my childhood and tell you that one of my favorite books that I read probably every year is the book Heidi as a kid, right? Because it has some interesting like parallels, or I kind of like to just see that. I have about 7 copies, of different versions, but that's probably not my favorite book in the world. You know, it depends on the day. I think right now we've been studying the compound effect with Darren Hardy. So we've been reading that a lot. That seems to be lying around with lots of tags in it. I can't pick. That's just like picking like my favorite child or something. It can't happen.
I hear you. I hear you. Next question is, who is a franchise leader that you look up to?
I talked to quite a few different people in this space, and they've been so generous. That's the one thing about franchises. They're so generous with their time. Right now, Angela Cody has been really great as far as creating masterminds and stuff. And she's just been wonderful about kind of freely bringing people into that space. She's been great. I've also worked with a lot of, just kind of companies in general that have been, good mentors. You can look up to, I know quite a few people that I've worked with at Neighborly, or people that are at, Home Franchise Concepts, or there's just a lot of companies out there that will just say, you've got questions, here you go. Here are some answers for you. Yeah, I know there's so much in the franchising world. It's hard to pick anybody. I should have written some of these down.
No, you know what? I love that answer, because, the franchise industry is just so open, so collaborative, so sharing. Like, you can talk to your competitors and they'll help you out, provide you with insights, which I absolutely adore about it.
Yeah. Because everyone's doing stuff just slightly different, but we can all share ideas, and each one of us can get something. Whether you're, a multi-million dollar, billion dollar, company, or a smaller, it doesn't matter, because we're all in the same, we're going in the same direction here. We're all working. And I really don't like the competitive spirit sometimes that people will bring into it. For me, it's like, I hope we all win. I hope every single one of us, find amazing franchises, and those franchises find an amazing space to grow business, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So Heidi, last question, I promised. Where can people find out more about you and your franchise?
Sure. Easiest way is probably to go on LinkedIn and just look for me, Heidi Morrissey. And I love to connect there. We also have our page there, Kitchen Tune-Up, of course. We're also on Facebook. We are also on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. We're on TikTok now, go believe that or not, but we are. So you can kind of find Kitchen Tune-Up really anywhere on social media that it's comfortable for you. And you can also get hold of our franchise if you'd like to talk with somebody in our franchise at KTU@kitchentune-up.com.
Awesome. Heidi, thank you so much for coming on. It was just a blast.
All right. Thanks so much, Jordan. I appreciate it.
No problem. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. If you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and subscribe now so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And until then, happy marketing.